Welcome to Issue for Construction. Today I've got with me two partners of a practice that I reached out to, I don't know, I would say about maybe a month and a half ago. Spoke to Diego, and Diego and I have spoken a couple times, had some really intricate conversations. Paul and I have met today for the first time. I haven't said who they are yet, but I've alluded to it. Today I've got with me the founders of Burdifilek. I have Diego Burdi, and I've got Paul Filek with me. And I am sitting in a kid's chair. I just thought I should say that. So to my children, thank you for allowing me to use your seat. So gentlemen, thanks for joining today. Thanks for doing this in advance of doing anything.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Little backyard enclave.
We found out that we're kind of neighbors. So I want to start everything off by asking you, and I ask everyone the same question. Later in this episode, you're going to hear Diego and Paul discuss the profound impact of a shared meal. Whether it's an unforgettable dinner at the Amman in Tokyo, or a traditional lunch tucked away in the alleys of Seoul, or bonding with clients over a glass of wine. As Paul notes, there's a special kind of intimacy and connection that only happens around a dining table. But creating those memorable family meals where everyone is preparing food together or sharing a potluck starts long before you sit down to eat. It starts with the ingredients. Diego's own creative origin story is tied to his father's grocery business. And as anyone knows, when you bring beautiful, fresh groceries home, you want them to last. So how do you ensure the freshness and the elevation of your entire cooking experience actually comes to fruition? You do it by building great relationships with people who truly understand their products. And that is exactly what you get at Kaplan's. The experts at Kaplan's don't just put a box in front of you. They know exactly how to describe the specific features that will genuinely elevate your home and change how you experience your kitchen. If you want your food to stay fresh for a long period of time rather than just a few days, you need premium preservation and cooking tools. Kaplan's carries the finest brands in the industry to make that happen. Sub-Zero, Wolf, Miele, Fisher & Paykel, Jenner, La Cornue, and so many more. When you have fantastic products, getting the family together to share a meal becomes an absolute joy. If you want to learn more about upgrading your kitchen experience, reach out to me directly. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca. Or you can visit the Kaplan's website by heading over to the liner notes in the show. But now, let's get back to Paul and Diego. So I'll start off with you, Diego. I'll ask you. So where were you born? What kind of child were you? What are some of the earliest memories you have of your life?
Oh, well, born and raised in Toronto, actually Scarborough.
Okay.
I a quintessential Canadian immigrant story. My parents came to this country over 60 years ago from Italy, two different parts of Italy, and met here. And I'm first generation, and I had a really interesting childhood. I was artistic at a very early age, and I remember my parents, I think in grade 1, coming back from a parent-teacher interview saying that this guy should go into Saturday morning art classes. And that's how I got into, I guess, the creative world, but I didn't know what I wanted to do.
What were you drawing in those creative
I was just like, I guess back then it was like, cars, and then it was like houses. There wasn't Lego. There was this other block scenario back then, and I maybe
mechanics,
a mechano, something like that.
Meccano.
Yeah, Meccano. And I was building stuff and just doing stuff like this. And I don't know. I just that's what just happened, right? And eventually found myself at a specialty high school for the arts. And that was very interesting. Wexford Collegiate.
Okay.
And back then it was amazing. I guess it was completely funded by the city. And it was 5 years of art in every medium possible. But at the same time, you had to keep a certain GPA up. And so there was no basket weaving courses. I had to do math and science and what have you if you want to get into university.
Right.
But half of my day was multimedia, and I did everything from sculpture to painting to drawing to printing to whatever. And kind of like started investigating things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you have siblings? And
No.
No. Okay.
No. Yeah. A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah.
A lot of folks.
You are the investment.
I am the investment. Yeah.
Fair. Okay. And what about yourself, Paul?
I grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, so up in northern Ontario, and similar story background to Diego, in the sense that my parents immigrated from Italy and from Poland. So it's a small community up there. I grew up. My parents were both very entrepreneurial. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a mechanic. But I think that in his mind, I think my dad thought he was an architect, a structural engineer, a general contractor, a fine mill worker, you name it. He wore that hat.
How are his mitered corners?
Actually, they were very good.
Okay.
So through osmosis, I kind of was exposed to, let's say, being brave and fearless. And we tried a little bit of everything. My father's idea of starting a business was not just starting the business, but let's buy the land, let's build the building, let's do everything. So at very early age, I got exposed to the construction industry, let's say, many different facets of it. And I've always been fascinated with building. Jagger, you talk about playing with Meccano. I can remember hours upon hours upon hours. And even, to this day, playing with Lego. So I had a 17-year-old son who also played with Lego, but I have a special Lego that's called the white Lego. That's called the imagination Lego. So it's not like new Lego today that follows a theme. I played with white blocks and very generic pieces, but you made your own things from that. So
I remember them.
Yeah, I think I've always had a creative spirit from that point of view. And then through the lens of my father, I was able to actually apply some of it. So it was an amazing childhood growing up there, a very incredibly close circle of friends that have followed, the Sioux has followed me all around the world. I can't tell you the number of places that I've been where suddenly there's some connection back to the Sioux, and we could be in Seoul or we could be in Atlanta, Georgia. But so it was a wonderful community to grow up in. Great group of friends that I did grow up with, and I look back on that fondly.
Mm-hmm. It's nice. To have the roots in the city. No, Sault Ste. Marie's not quite in the city, obviously, but rooted in. It's a really Canadiana place.
It is. It's a little bit more. I think I have some experience of the heartland versus the hinterland,
Okay.
and that to some degree is the hinterland.
Okay.
Growing up as a kid, I always coveted coming to Toronto, but when I spend time here, I miss being there, and when I'm there, I miss being here.
Fair.
So it's always that back and forth tension.
And so what of the classes that you took while you were in school led you to believe that you should potentially go and study something in university that's going to lead you down the path of where you are now? It's actually maybe even the wrong question to ask. Did you study design in university?
Yes, in university, but not
Okay.
in high school.
Not in high school.
But you're asking, how did I get?
Yeah,
school
what
to
led you through high school into studying design university?
Yeah.
And I realize sometimes when I ask these questions, I'm making assumptions,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people I've interviewed that actually didn't study the specific topic that they focus on now,
Right.
in university.
Right. So going back to the immigrant story. So I'm in this art school, right? And my father ran a grocery business. And, was all about working and, making a living and so on and so forth. So, as I neared the end of high school, he's like, well, what are you going to do with this? How are you going to make a living? Right. And he's like, you should go into architecture. Right. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds like something I should do. right? Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? And it was kind of like a little bit of osmosis, right? And this is a funny story because he had a couple of grocery stores and he would bring these magazines home, and it was Architectural Digest, but he didn't know that it was an architecture. It's really you know interior design. And he goes, see, this is what you should do, right? But I kind of knew that that was not architecture, but like, no, I think I want to get into architecture. And so thank God I didn't do any of the basket weaving courses. And I got into architecture, and I was very fortunate that one of his managers at one of his other stores' wife was the office manager at a very big firm in Toronto, and got me in as a student, and I was privileged to work in the studio at the time.
Hold on. Where did you go to school?
Oh, I went to Ryerson.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to Ryerson. And
now known as TMU.
Yes, now known as TMU. And it was 150 people.
Yep.
This studio, this firm, and only 11 people were actually designing buildings, and the other 120, they were doing building science and coordination and all that stuff. And anyways, I was working in the studio part, making models and doing all this stuff. And I'm like looking at the swath of people. I'm like, do I want to do this? It's like takes 7, 8 years to get something off the ground, like to actually see it. So in the meantime, they had a very small studio of interior designers, and they would kind of do the interior part of whatever the projects were, and they were having a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I dropped out of architecture. My father wasn't too happy about that.
I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
An immigrant father wouldn't be happy if dropping out of school.
Just dropping out of architecture and saying, but wait a minute. And then, but I'm going into interior design. It's like, what? Like you're decorating? Like, and I'm like, no, it's like interior architecture. And anyways, I'm selling it at the kitchen table. Right. And I was lucky, right? So they were very, very generous, and they're like, okay, if this is what you believe in, I'm like, yeah, I believe in it. And it was like an aha moment, when I walked into the School of Interior Design and I started to do my thing, I just took off. It was really amazing. And the interesting thing about this story is that I'm screwing up the story. When I applied to architecture, I also applied to interior design. I got into both. I decided to go into architecture.
To satisfy the needs of the...
Right. But if I would have made the decision, I would have been in the same class as Paul. So Paul was 2 years ahead of me at TMU. So that's that story.
During high school had in grade 9 and 10, I think, and actually all the way up to grade 11, a gentleman in the suit, Fred Hooper, was my drafting teacher, and that had a huge influence on me. And in fact, back in high school, my parents were very upset because I kept on pulling all-nighters for drafting. And so obviously I was pretty passionate about it, and kind of rolled from there, if you will. I also went to TMU as well.
Well, yeah. So you were 2 years ahead. Had you met each other while you were in school?
Very briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. Like at the end of every semester back then, you used to put your projects out on your desk or whatever. And Paul used to wear red jeans back then, right? And there was this guy.
Blue jeans today.
Blue jeans today, but red jeans. And this guy kept on looking at my projects every time we finished a semester. I'm like, who the hell is this guy that keeps on looking at my work? And it was after second year, Ryerson, that I got a job, and he worked at the same studio. And that's how we kind of quasi connected until I started working, full time in the studio, and then we connected.
And you hadn't, at that point, you had both of you independently of each other. Mm-hmm. You just happened to find this place, work at this place. Mm-hmm. There was no communication saying like, I'm gonna go work here, you should come join.
No, not at that stage. I mean, I think when we were at the TMU studio, that's just broken into 2 floors. So me being 2 years ahead, we kind of were on different floors. So we were somewhat back then, let's say ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
And then once we actually, worked together, and I, in that studio, started to speak at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because we were pulling all nighters, and started to understand our backgrounds and our entrepreneurial spirit. And also it was a different time back then. It was back in the early 90s, and
Right.
and things were challenging. And at one point, Diego and I just felt that really, quite honestly, we had nothing to lose, so why not try? So we left the comfort of a practice to start our chart our own path.
Later in this episode, you will hear Diego and Paul discuss the concept of blurring the lines in their design work. They talk about pushing past the interior walls and taking a holistic approach to the environment. When you are trying to truly blur the boundaries between the indoors and the outdoors, the glass and the sight lines you choose become the most critical part of the experience. That is exactly where the Doors comes in. They are a premium European window and door supplier specializing in top-tier aluminum products across all lines. Yes, their name is the Doors. These are low-profile systems with high-quality, excellent R values, and superior thermal breaks. What is really exciting is that the Doors is now carrying a highly elevated, really thin profile steel product. So if you're looking for an elegant style of window, you cannot go wrong with steel. Whether you need standard finishes or completely custom colors, they have you covered. Their standard lead time from the sign-off of shop drawings to the actual installation date is 10 to 12 weeks. But if you're on a tight timeline, they can expedite that down to just 3 weeks. Why? Well, because they've got a machine in-house. What sets the Doors apart is their deep commitment to relationships. Owners Martin and Marta are involved in all facets of the business. They have an incredibly loyal, long-standing staff like Mario, who has been with them since the very beginning 20 years ago. This is a long-established business that executes at the highest degree, and you never have to worry about an installation handoff going wrong. They do their own installations in-house, and they even own their own spider crane. So you are never held up by rental equipment shortfalls, whether it is a standard job or a complex curtain wall. If you want to learn more about how the Doors can fulfill your requirements, you can email me directly at Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca, or you can head over to the liner notes to connect with them directly. All right, let's get back to the episode. And what was...
But those conversations, happened at that studio and happened at that point.
That's what I want to touch on is what were the conversations like? You had projects that you were working on while you're there. Mm-hmm. You're learning something. Mm-hmm. It's not maybe entirely what you want to be doing. You're getting a niche. Like what were some of the earliest conversations you remember while in that studio talking to each other?
I think that, we came from a studio where there was a lot of work happening, and it was a great studio to be a part of. And
what kind of work?
Work that we wanted to do, work that we were very involved in, and then we were quite happy doing. So,
like commercial work or
both? Oh, absolutely. Hospitality, residential, retail, everything.
Okay.
We enjoyed all of that. But at the same time, too, I think that Diego and I wanted the opportunities. So at some point, you have to take the risk.
Yes.
And, a lot of our experience in the early days were about, facing the design world, I think, head on and understanding where we would find our niche and placement in that. And at the same time, too, neither of us had, run a design practice. Diego was looking at business through the eyes of his parents and myself as well. And they were unrelated to the design world. But, we learned some early business lessons. It gave us a very, very good foundation.
Such as,
the phone just doesn't automatically ring. You can't just expect it to, once one job is finished, then suddenly the phone rings again on Monday with the new job ready to start. So in some sense we were naive, but that being naive, I think also when I talk about being brave, that's part of it. It's, we're fearless. And when we, presented with an opportunity, I think Diego and I from day one have risen to the occasion. We figured out how to pivot. We figured out how to become experts. We figured out how to make it happen. And that's really been, I think, the strength of our partnership since those early days. We started in a room not much bigger than this.
Yes, in fact,
to be quite honest, and no air conditioning. And we were sitting right next to Avenue Road, so it wasn't quite as quiet as this.
And
right?
no desks. We had a plywood board with a clip on the top, and I was drawing on the clipboard basically a presentation. Like no drafting table, nothing back then, right? So, it's very humbling when you really start from the very, very, very beginning, and the naivete is real, and you learn how to swim very quickly. And we're in the middle of a recession while we're doing this, right? So it was very, very interesting. But you persevere, and with time, things start to happen.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of luck as well, and you have to recognize the brass ring when it comes towards you. By the way, you have to see that.
What was it when you had made the decision that this was going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
You're at the other practice.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to each other. You say, "Yeah, we're going to do this."
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a project at this time, or did you jump before the project, or did you? Can we talk about this?
We potentially had a project. Yes, we had a few little projects, but those weren't lasting projects. They weren't projects that
you could go build.
There were projects, actually one project in particular that didn't end up seeing the light of day. It stayed on that drafting board or that piece of plywood, whatever it was.
Okay.
But that was one of the lessons. We thought there was a done deal. It wasn't. But again, we pivoted. We found the next opportunity.
And how did you find them? Well, what were some of the? Well, actually, before we even get to the opportunities, registering the name of the business.
Went down to the registry office.
Okay. I like it.
Went to the lawyer's office. Went to the registry office.
Yeah.
Went and rented space. Did all of those things. And
Yeah.
I think that's what Diego's also talking about in terms of it being humbling. You realize that when everything is done for you, it's very different than having to actually do that and find work and do your design work and, make it all happen.
So there's a lot of funny stories though, like in the beginning, you're starting a business, you're starting a studio, and it's a visual medium, right? So you want to have the right office. You want, I think the first office is like 500 square feet. And we're like, where are we going to get this space? Right. And we're looking around and looking. And then we found a space at Berkeley Castle, right? Which is Esplanade in Berkeley. And Jack Diamond owned the building, I think at the time.
Yeah.
Right. And
it was affordable. So
it was affordable, and it was a corner unit. It was amazing. We got it in, I think, March. It was like February or March. And we were like, this is fantastic. And, we're painting it and we're building stuff. And it's like, just smoke and mirror show, right?
As Diego's describing this, you got to understand, he's using his eyes and he's looking around, seeing the studio right now, talking about what it was like to visualize this unique, small, but now personal office space.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
Yeah, no, we're doing it.
We're there.
But June 1st or June 2nd, the first week of June, all of a sudden we're in the office. I remember this so clearly. It's like, I don't know, 10 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden it sounds like an airplane is taking off, and we start to shake a little bit, right? I'm like, what's going on? The HVAC unit for the whole building is right above us. That's why we have this cheap rent, right? So for 4 years, we knew every summer, we're like, oh, here we go, right? So we definitely did not do any client meetings in the summer.
I was going to say, you're not like the presentation board doesn't have a single thumbtack in it. You got two for each piece of paper.
Right. It was, it was so hilarious, but it really built character.
Yeah.
It was really, really interesting. I wouldn't take it back for all the tea in China. It was like fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, when you look back on the things that you did in the very beginning, they were all stepping stones to be able to get to where you are now, all learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about, I don't know that I've ever asked this question. Were you on the main floor?
No, we were on the fourth floor.
Okay. Yeah. And was there an elevator?
Yep.
Okay. So I've never asked this question. What was it like when you walked up to the office space for the first time and you saw your business name on the registry at the bottom so that you knew that to go to the fourth floor? Do you remember this?
No, that I don't. But one thing I do know that might speak to something is that like in any building or in any rental property, there's a language to how the suite is signed, for example. And I think, with our first office, again, Diego and I being just very naive, but also very eager at the same time, we didn't really ask the landlord for permission on anything. And there was certainly a lot of, you're not allowed to do this, but we did it anyways. So one of those.
Yeah, I was gonna say you got to give me some examples.
Well,
This is juicy stuff.
Sandblasted ceilings that weren't supposed to be painted, but we sprayed them out white and all kinds of things. But when you talk about approaching the suite, I do remember we took whatever was designed for the building and we had to change it. So yes, we needed to leave our mark at the front door. So that in itself, I think, was almost a little bit of foreshadowing in terms of what we were going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Do it and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
So
I think there was more of a reaction when we first saw our name in print. Sometimes, when you get your first story published, that's a big ordeal. So that, might be similar to that moment of arriving at.
You got the call from Suzanne Marie. I see it.
Well, I wasn't up in the suit then, but yeah.
Okay, fair. So what did some of the first projects look like? And did you care what the projects were?
Always.
From day one.
Always. It's in our DNA. Like, it doesn't matter how small, medium, large, where we're doing the project, it always has to be the best. And from day one, we always designed with the idea of how does this sit on the global stage, not just if we're in Toronto. From day one, and like we were nothing, and I remember like we had a lot of chutzpah back then because we were just, we're going to make this fantastic, right? And, it was before the internet, right? So, I mean, I remember.
What was, I didn't even ask you, what year did you incorporate?
93.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been,
literally just a couple of years before the internet.
Yeah, literally. And when I remember, I'll get back to that story, but I remember when we heard about the internet, we got our Burdifilek.com because it was like, we have to register this because .com's going to disappear pretty soon because it was like having a 416 versus a 905.
Yes.
And even though we didn't have
like
there wasn't even email back then, there was none of this stuff. It was quite hilarious.
Yeah, you had the option for AOL in the beginning. And I think one of the first web domains that you could get for email address was Hotmail.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. But what were we
talking you're going to go on to talk about, I guess, the early evolution of projects and the importance of what the project was.
Oh, yes. So we knew, it had to sit on the global stage. So we looked at everything like this. And I really am forgetting what I was going to say, actually.
I think that, in the beginning.
You have to edit this out.
Okay. I can't.
Yeah.
When you talk about that drive, though, I think that drive, back in there was no internet. There was telephones. So,
I know what I was going to say. I got it. Okay.
See?
Sorry.
We don't have to edit anything out.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I got it. So there was no internet and there was the yellow pages.
Yes.
And we were so, like, how are we going to get some work, right? And so I remember one day, it's like, well, what do you feel like designing? Oh, I don't know. Do you want to do a shoe store? What do you want? Oh, I feel like doing a bakery. Okay. Let's do a bakery. So then I'm like, we took the yellow pages and like ripped under bakeries.
All the bakeries.
You take these 3 pages and we start phoning. And it was like cold calling, right? And we got this amazing project.
Come on.
Through cold calling. Yeah. And what
cold call bakeries and someone said yes?
Yes. And you'd be surprised that people used to talk on the phone.
Hold on a second. For any, you got to appreciate this. For anyone listening right now, if you are in high school, if you're in doubtful, but if you're in university, if you're a junior or an intern architect or designer anywhere, you have to appreciate the fact that the phone is a medium that is underutilized.
Oh, absolutely.
Texting is not going to get you the project. It's not going to work.
No. This
is being said right now is worth its weight in gold, platinum, or Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So we got this bakery and it was really, it was amazing. And then, and we designed it. And again, with the philosophy that it's going to sit on the global stage and, things just started to evolve for us. And we had a lot of different commissions that came to us and, little by little, things start to move. There were two big milestones that really started to put us on the global stage.
And what years? How far into practice were you?
So I want to
A
say
couple of years, year and a half, maybe.
Okay.
no, a little bit longer. I want to say like maybe 3 years, like maybe 3 years.
Did you have employees when this came?
This particular one, no.
So it was still-
no, we did. No, sorry. Yes, no, yes, we did. We had employees. I think we had 2 employees.
Yeah.
So
we had 2 employees.
I know that keep interrupting you, and I'm probably going to screw up your train of thought again by asking this
That's okay.
question as I interrupt. What roles did you have to fill first when you had to hire someone? Was it drafting?
It was production.
Production.
It
They
was
were more
production.
generous. They helped
Okay.
a little bit with
Yeah.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was
Sorry.
production.
Go ahead.
So we were doing all this stuff and everything, and we got a phone call from Club Monaco, and I remember this so distinctly. And they wanted to interview us, and it was on a Friday. I remember this, and we're like, oh yeah, okay, we're gonna go. And we, back then, wallpaper just started, and it was a different time back then, and Club Monaco was like on this huge trajectory that, on the global stage, like they were
I
becoming
remember.
like huge
Yeah.
Canadian success story. And I remember walking in the meeting, and we both walking in the meeting. We're like, we're going to go to this meeting. It's going to be a great experience because, 15 years from now, when we get this type of phone call, we'll know how to deal with it. Like we're walking in, not we're going to get it. We're like, this is just going to be an experience.
Yeah. We'll learn from this.
We'll learn from this. And we met with the vice president of store design and marketing at the time. And she was amazing. And we had our portfolio, and, it was photographs, and we had it in a box that we flipped open, and, we're like kind of doing Vanna White, like showing stuff. And she put everything like halfway, like I was only halfway through it. She puts everything back in the box and slides it closed. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? It's all in this
Now
box.
what?
Right.
Yeah.
And she goes, I just want to talk about retail. And, what do you think about what's going on? So like, me, I can talk forever. So we just start talking around the world. And she's like, okay, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. It'll take us 2 weeks to make this decision and everything. And, we're interviewing other people today. I'm like, okay, fine. And we leave. And I think we both went our separate ways because we had some job sites to go to. And then we went back to the studio. It was like, I don't know, 5:00, 5:30. And, there's an answering machine because there's no intranet, there's no emails or whatever. So like we're both
didn't have a receptionist back then.
Yeah, there was no receptionist. And
You're lucky if you had an answering machine with 2 tapes in it.
Yeah.
Just in case one was already full.
And I press it, and we're listening, and it's somebody else from in the meeting. It's like, hi guys, hope you're all well. Congratulations. We're gonna go with you. And we're like, and the same day, and we were like, oh my God. So it was like that 10 minutes of, oh wow, this is amazing. And then it was like, oh, how are we going to do this?
Diego's referencing before we started recording, we talk about the idea of wins, and do you get the chance to celebrate them? And the term of the 10-minute celebration was there.
Yeah, you get the 10
first.
minutes, and then you get the reality. The reality comes 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So, we started working with them, and they were very clear. They said, listen, we're doing some stuff in New York and San Francisco, and you won't be doing any of the US work. You'll only do the Canadian work. We're like, okay. But, like that's all I needed to hear, right? That's all I needed to hear.
Oh, you're thinking like 2 things. You're like, oh, you're not going to give those to us? All we get is Canada?
Yeah.
Or in your mind, did you think you only had 1 store? Or did you think
No,
had...
they said it was the national account.
Okay.
So we knew the importance of it.
Diego's mind though, he was already in New York. So
I was already in New York. But anyways, within 8 months, we were in New York, and it was fantastic. And we did a store in Soho on Prince Street, and we did one on Broadway, and then we did one on 57th and 5th, and we did San Francisco. We did we kind of went everywhere, and it was fantastic, and we started to get that notoriety, that buzz started to happen, and everything was great. And, we're getting other commissions and everything. And so we're very happy. And then I don't know. Now it's like 18 months, two more years. I think it's year 8 or 9. I don't know what year this is now. I'm really confused. And we get a letter from Holt Renfrew asking us to enter into a competition for the main floor. And we're like, okay, wow, that's amazing, right? And then right away we're like, oh, they probably don't have enough Canadian content because they're going to go international.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And again, we're like, okay, let's enter it was our first paid competition, by the way. It's like, oh my God, you're going to pay me to compete, And so like, fantastic. And we spent all of that and probably more, right? But again, we walked in because we thought, okay, it's going to be an experience, right? And one day we'll be in this situation.
And was this also for national?
No, it was just for the Bloor Street location,
Okay.
main floor, the flagship for the country.
Okay.
And we had 6 weeks to do this scenario. And we, I remember the day distinctly. We went there to present, and a lot of people that we admired in the design world were sitting in the lobby, right? And we were the first to present. So we walked by all these people into the Holt Renfrew boardroom. And at the time, that boardroom was very, very long. It was like a Alice in Wonderland film. Like, it's like it was huge table.
I was going
right?
to say, it's like when Bruce Wayne had dinner with, what's her name, in the original Tim Burton Batman.
Right.
Past the salt.
Right. Exactly. It was like
get up and walk down the table.
that type of thing. But it's a shallow, long room, and you walked in, and we had to walk around this table back to the middle in front of these double doors. And we just sat there. It could have been like, it felt like 5 years. So it was probably 5 minutes. And the doors open, and in come like the senior VPs, the VPs, the president, and Mr. Weston comes in and sits right in front of us. So it's either like the Last Supper or a firing squad. Either way, it's like, it's serious. It's serious. But you're there. So you're like, okay, well, let's go. Let's do it. And we did it. And it was a little bit like deja vu, where they're like, we're going to need 2 weeks to make this decision. And obviously we're going to interview all these people, and fine. And we left, and we went back to the office. And I think the office was doing a Club Monaco presentation to somebody in New York at the time. And I think it's now 2:00, and I go for a very late lunch. I don't bring my phone with me because now we have cell phones, right? And I come back, and the office is abuzz, and they're cleaning up the boardroom. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And Paul comes around the corner. He goes, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you. And I'm like, I just, went out for lunch. He's like, Holt Renfrew's coming. We got Holt Renfrew. I'm like, what? They want to come and talk about the project. I'm like,
today?
What?
Today?
Same day? The same day.
That is,
right?
that's a no BS scenario.
Yeah. Well,
it's very selfish of you to go for lunch.
I know. And, and then they're like, congratulations.
It was an incredibly tight time.
Yeah, sure.
That was the back end.
That was, it was like, they were like, congratulations. And we are 6 months behind schedule, and we got to start next week. And I'm like, anyways.
What do you say to that? Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
What else are you going to say? Of course. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
No problem. I don't plan on sleeping for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. The next year, practically, it was a long.
But opportunity knocks.
I mean, you're talking about two massive accounts at an early stage of practice that can change the face, and probably did change the face of practice.
Completely. It catapulted us.
Absolutely.
All over the world.
Exponentially.
Yeah. You're talking about for those that are unaware. I mean, one, for you to be unaware of the two brands that were just mentioned, go do some research. Just before the break, we were talking about creating an entirely new design language and how form, function, and aesthetics come together to completely change an environment. That exact philosophy is what transforms a standard backyard into a true luxury experience, and nobody understands that better than Aquanta Pools. If you are looking to create a personal oasis with a stunning European aesthetic, you need to look at what Aquanta is doing. Owned by Yuri, an absolute gem of a man with 20 years of experience in the pool business, Aquanta Pools specializes in bringing the world-renowned biodesign technology from Italy right to your property. Unlike traditional concrete pools with harsh angles, biodesign pools are crafted with gorgeous natural curves that mimic a luxury beach. Whether you are building a personal home, a vacation retreat, outfitting a multi-residential condo, or creating a world-class hospitality experience for hotel guests. These pools completely elevate the space. What makes Aquanta's product truly incredible is the engineering. Instead of concrete, they use a patented blend of natural quartz sand and specialized resins. This resin technology is structurally flawless. It allows for the natural expansion and contraction of the ground during our harsh Canadian freeze-thaw cycles without cracking. Plus, it is completely versatile. Whether you prefer chlorine, bromine, ozone, or saltwater systems, the resin handles it beautifully. And if you're worried about construction delays, don't be, because Yuri is an owner-operator who is personally involved in all his projects. So to guarantee his timelines and your budget, he physically builds a shelter over the excavation site. Rain, snow, or dropping temperatures will not affect the schedule. He delivers a premium product on time every time. If you want to learn more about bringing a biodesign oasis to your next project through Aquanta Pools, head over to the liner notes to connect directly with Yuri and his team at Aquanta, or email me. It's Jonathan, Jonathan, at issuedforconstruction.ca. All right, let's get back to the episode. I'll start there. But if you are unaware of Club Monaco at the time in the 90s was like a huge trend-setting brand that just like they came out of nowhere and just blew up. And Holt Renfrew, obviously, I mean, if you're in Canada, you know Holt Renfrew. If you're not in Canada, you also know Holt Renfrew. And you probably know the Weston family, so you can appreciate when this opportunity knocks. Yeah, you drop what you're doing and you go. Now I'm absorbing that. I'm not going to take 10 minutes. I'll just take like 10 seconds.
Okay.
Because like, I mean, trying to find the right words, because what an opportunity to be able to have, but what an opportunity to capitalize upon at an early stage of practice, to land that kind of stuff in your first couple of years is remarkable. It's not, they're not asking you to bid on that proposal.
No. Unless
they had in their mind an idea that you were totally capable of this.
So that's an interesting point that you bring up, because, after that, you other commissions start coming towards you globally. And what you start to realize is that like-minded people start to get attracted to you or the studio, which is fantastic, right? And there are rainmakers out there. They give you the opportunity because they see the creativity behind the studio. It isn't, it's not like apples to apples, meaning, oh, look, you've done this, I'll give you this.
Right.
We've had a lot of projects that we've had to prove ourselves that we've never done it before.
This is, by the way, an inherent difference, I think, between architecture and interior design.
Very much so.
And I say that because on interior design, people can see the ability, but they'll actually give you the opportunity. And in architecture, people can see the ability, but if you haven't done it, they're far less likely to want to give it to you.
Right. Yeah. No, we can see that.
And I would say yes and no, though. I mean, for the most part, yes, Jonathan, but there still are, when you start to look at the commercial world and start to break it down, and which may be part of a warning sign, actually. You do look at brands that, for example, might be a jewelry brand. And if you haven't designed a jewelry store in the past, they certainly won't consider you. And is that right or wrong? I think that, you need to Diego's point, you need to be working with visionaries that can see beyond that and really embrace your talent. And, I think that's another just good fortune. We didn't strategize this way. We didn't predict it would happen this way. But the first two clients were very design aware. They were visionaries in their own right.
Yeah.
So, to have that foundation of working with somebody like Mr. Weston or Joe Mimran, has resonated through our practice throughout the years. And in fact, Joe, has become as did Mr. Weston, become a repeat customer, and come to us with many different brands to work on. But, connecting to them early on, And again, with no portfolio,
Yeah.
Diego and I realized that,
Yeah.
they're attracted to something here, and it's our ability. So let's celebrate that, and let's.
But we've been asked, like, we've had peers ask us, like, well, how did you get into Europe, or how did you get into Asia? We have all this work in Asia, and the Asian market came to us. We didn't go to the Asian market. They came to us, and the first project was in Seoul. And it was a major department store that came to us and asked us to look at a project.
And what were they basing it on?
So it's interesting, when we asked them, they sent us a PDF of all of these articles that I forgot about, that they've kept a file on us, right? And they're like, we've been following you for a long time, and we think this might be the right fit, right?
There is a bit of a segue, though.
It's almost like your mom, right? Like your mom keeps a shoebox of your
Well,
stuff.
I mean, I'm gonna say something. Like I always say, I say to the student, and we also think this way. You just never know who's looking, right? And who's aware. You just have no idea.
Yeah.
Right. And
you have to treat every interaction.
Yeah.
Like it's the last time you're going to have an interaction with someone.
Absolutely.
It's true, right? And we design in the same manner.
Yeah.
It's like, this is an opportunity. Let's make it amazing.
Yeah. You were going to say something before.
Just that, I think in terms of our exposure, we often, to that mindset of the global stage, naturally, when we want to get accreditation for our projects, we're not just solely looking in the Canadian marketplace. So we'll enter competitions globally. And that, I think, inadvertently has introduced us to foreign markets. Did we realize they were looking for so long? No. So that's quite flattering from that point of view. But that has helped us get into markets where, normally we wouldn't be recognized.
Yeah. I mean, there's now, I think more so than before, there were only a handful, like in the 90s, there were a handful of practices that would get a chance on an international scale in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's happening more now, but then like, you're trend setting for what's possible to come out of Canada.
Well, let's face it. I mean, the introduction of the internet and technology is certainly made for more of a, it allows you to have more of a global presence.
Yes.
We started prior to that. So, for us to create a global presence was a lot more work. I just don't think we consciously, Diego, realized we were doing that work. I think we subconsciously did a lot of that. And again, through things like awards and some publication, suddenly we realized that we had, in fact, reached a global audience. And then also in terms of the brands that we've worked with. So, the example of Club Monaco hopping the border and going into the United States, working with other brands that went more towards Europe. So, working with a Canadian brand in your own backyard, but that automatically takes you into a foreign market.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm paused. I'm absorbing. It doesn't happen to me often, but I'm just absorbing it. I have always in my life, I have always loved success stories that are just based on people's drive to want to perform in what they do and to like achieve a level of excellence. And so I'm taking in the fact that Diego, you and I have spoken a couple of times now, and we've shared stories. Paul, is the first time we're really sharing these stories, but the idea of looking back on time. So the idea of 30 minutes ago, you talking about pulling out the yellow page sections of bakeries to being invited to bid on Holt Renfrew. I mean, it's I give pause to that because I think it's a pretty prolific way of getting a form of acknowledgement, even just to be invited to the room, let alone to land it and deliver it, and then totally develop the relationship that leads to other opportunities. So talk about the evolution of what the practice looks like, because it started out with the two of you. You brought in two other people that were relative generalists, but you start winning this large scale work, and you can't handle this work with four people. So what did you do if you didn't come into the business with the business plan, or did you? I didn't even ask that question.
I don't think we had a formalized business plan. I can't sit here and say that we did.
Okay. Okay, good.
We did.
It's kind of through osmosis. We pivot, it's a different business every year.
Of
By the
course.
way.
Well, now, yeah. But at the time, how did you establish? There's a couple questions I want to ask you, and I don't want to ask them all at the same time because they'll get lost. So the first thing is, how did you establish how many staff you would need based on what was in front of you?
I think, in terms of the process, we understand it, the labor that we need to support the process and move it through. And, it's just, it's a question of volume, and all the projects are at different stages. I think more interestingly, the relationship between Diego and I, we're both, prior to landing all of this work, both of us were really doing everything almost in parallel.
Okay.
Design, production, we were moving through the stages of the process. And I think that, as the studio grew, we realized that somebody had to run the business and somebody had to run the design studio. And clearly between the two of us, Diego is he is the creative force and visionary. So it made the most sense that Diego would be design director, look after the studio, look after and everything that goes with it. And I would in turn be the complement to that and the support on the business side. So I think that, I don't see, I have great respect. I don't understand how they do it, sole proprietors. I would not want to be in that position myself. Diego's got my back. I've got Diego's back. It's been a partnership of trust and support. And I think, that's it. A lot of it too, Jonathan, is like, let's not complicate it. A lot of it just comes down to common sense. And, I think Diego and I are very logical people.
Yeah.
And we build our business as we see, our gut tells us. And you watch it happen in front of your eyes. You control it. It's like a child, you nurture and watch it grow. And you watch it also go through the stages. And then as Diego's referring to now, every year we're a different business. Every year we pivot. Every year we bring in new talent. Every year we look at new opportunities. And then, you do get those phone calls from left field that pull you in a direction, and ultimately you're a new company 12 months down the road.
But to go back to your question, like when those two projects you're talking, like how did we go from two to whatever? Between the beginning of having two people to, let's say, Club Monaco, by the time we had Club Monaco, we probably had about 15 people with us already, because there wasn't only Club Monaco, there were other projects happening at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So then when Holt Renfrew came on board, we had to probably get another 5-6 people, and then it just started to bloom from there. So like we didn't go from 0 to 60 in 10 seconds. Like we already had infrastructure for something like that.
So I guess I don't typically go into this. I'm only thinking about it from the standpoint of when you're landing these kinds of projects and you're looking at, what's the time for production between, our conceptual drawings and working through and material selection and you start going through like all of the components associated with what you have to deliver and the time factor of what that equates to. You got to put together a proposal and you're doing that, but now you have to look at it and how many people is it going to take to build the product. And there's math to it, right? In some capacity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then there isn't, because then you're going to get some people you referenced that term before, like they're like a rainmaker.
Yeah.
And you could potentially bring someone in that is like really efficient.
Yeah.
And they're a star and they can make up for two people in some capacity. So I guess my
Well, you're looking at those.
so I knew that.
No, I mean, I think it does take a village.
Yeah.
And we are extremely fortunate. We have a fantastic team behind us. Everybody participates. They're all amazing. We really can't do it without them. They're all amazing. And, we continually get new people as well.
Yeah.
And the schedule is very clear to the studio, from concept to production to coordination. We are very clear on what's going to go on, and we look at every project differently. Some of the projects are quite large. I have 1 million square feet happening in Shanghai right now. We have a big project that just came into the studio this week in Seoul, and we're actually we're going through scheduling this week actually to meet a September deadline. And there are many forms of responsibility and pressure when you're looking at these kind of projects. It's not just the pressure of getting our work done, but you're responsible to write a recipe that might affect up to 2,000 people
Yes.
at any given point, and I've walked on these job sites, and it's like, oh my God, they're following my recipe,
So I'm going to go there next.
Yeah.
Because we had briefly discussed this over lunch, and it's a really interesting detail. There's some items here that I'm talking about in this conversation that I don't always get into, and that is like the labor force and the supply chain associated with these projects.
Mm-hmm.
From a global scale, when you talk about working on 1 million square feet, you're talking about likely across multiple continents having thousands of people that will be involved in the supply of either product or labor or insight.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of customization. There's a lot of consultants that, have to drink our Kool-Aid, right? And get into our headspace. And there's a lot of coordination on the professional point of view, on the labor point of view, on artisans, it's multi-layered, it's definitely not boring.
Can I ask you, when you're working in these foreign markets, you were telling me before, Paul, that you have a translator. And is it local, or do you have someone in house?
A little bit of both. It all depends on what,
where we are
talking about, Korea or different parts of Europe or China. There's certainly people in the studio that can converse, and if not, then sometimes it falls back on the client. They can speak both ways, or we do work with various agencies to support us in terms of the translation.
But going back to that, we talked about this during lunch a little bit. The beauty about what we do is we draw.
Yes.
Right. And I could be in Shanghai looking at working drawings with 20 consultants, and we're all looking at the same drawing, and the drawing is an international language. You don't have to read the notes to understand the drawing. And I can point and circle, and they're like, yes, we understand. Right. And I can draw what I would like, and they get it. So it's interesting. I also find that the world is
it's not all about verbal communication.
I get that. I do get that. I guess part of what I admire in this specific realm, as we're talking about international and in Sault, is it adds another layer of complexity to what is already complex in delivering something to someone. So, you're working here in Toronto, and you got a project that could be like, on the East Coast of Canada.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, now you're national.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about the international scale, you're talking about language barriers, cultural barriers. Like, there are a whole series of new
quality control.
Yeah. Of new elements that you have to now go figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sorry.
Go
ahead.
I mean, sorry, I'm going to cut you off there as well. I think another thing that we've done in the studio is, to help with the performance of the studio, and also help with the fact that, when we look at the breadth of work that we do, it can go from hospitality to residential to large scale commercial projects, mixed use development, specialty brands, department stores. You can have 20 teams internally to try and service all of these different segments and categories you work in. And ultimately, Jake and I have tried a few different approaches, but having one holistic group, one studio that can work on a project of 1 million square feet, flip gears, and then work on a yacht, then work on, a small project here in Toronto that's 1,000 square feet. All of these projects, in our eyes, have equal weight in terms of their responsibility and how we
and your output. Yeah.
But it's one studio that participates in all of that. And I think, like anything, we've people on our team that have been there for 15, 20 years. We work like a well-oiled machine.
So what is the current kind of high low in on the team?
Our head count today is 20.
20. Okay. So it's not a small practice. Yeah. Okay.
No, it's not. But I think at the same time too, Jake and
It's
I
not
have
big.
always had a mentality that, we don't need 200 people to
Yeah.
do what we do. And I think that with a tighter team, we've got tighter focus, we've got tighter creativity, tighter production.
Yeah.
When you talk about working with people, the more humans you add into the mix, sometimes that's how you also lose control.
Yeah.
And again,
Noise.
we feel by harnessing this,
Yeah.
it gives us that advantage on controlling the process. And quite honestly, it's worked very effectively. I can't tell you the number of clients that I've spoken to globally that say, we want to move forward, but Paul, I need to know I'm getting your A team. So yeah, you're getting the A team every time because we only have the A team.
I believe it. What does it look like now as you are, the practice is now 33 years old? Is that right? You said 93?
I don't know, we got your calculator out. It's 33, yes.
33 years. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's 15 when we started. I'm joking.
I wasn't doing the math on you.
He was 15?
No.
So the practice is 33 years old. You made reference to a couple projects there, and you've talked about some others. So when it comes to projects nowadays, are you still finding that there's certain projects that you're not necessarily getting invited to that you want? And do you find you still pick up the phone to go search them out? Or
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day we talk about new things, new opportunities. If we were having this conversation in my office, Jacob, it's up on the wall, or Jonathan, sorry, it's up on the wall. So, it's an active, it's a mindset that we have. Again, I scroll Instagram, I scroll LinkedIn, we read tons of information that comes to the studio. And, I feel it's almost our responsibility to pick up the phone and try and speak with these people and try and find that fit and find that opportunity. But that's just part of what we do.
Yeah. Because I think that a lot of people, if you're listening to this and you've been on here and you're offended by what I'm about to say, I apologize. But I don't apologize. I think a lot of people rest on their laurels and they say that it's quiet, but then they don't make it happen. And there's a lot of missed opportunity in not going and picking up the phone and making things happen for yourself.
You have to. I think, I think, if you're truly entrepreneurial, you always have that sense of curiosity and adventure. I think we both, I can speak, I think for Paul, that we're the most uncomfortable when it's quiet.
Yeah.
And we're the most relaxed when it's crazy. Right. And it's also the adventure of that very serendipitous phone call that comes in. You can't believe who's on the other line, or you get off a plane and you find yourself in the most amazing space that you would never expect to ever walk into in your whole life, or have an opportunity to design something that is not in your realm, but you get excited about it. I think all of that is what really drives us. Yeah, you can't, you can have 3 or 4 successful, amazing projects and sit back and say, oh, it's all going to come to you. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You have to pound the pavement. You have to look for it. And, it is cliche, but you are truly as good as your last project. And you have to really own it in a lot of ways.
Can we talk about the project that you referenced before, the one that floats?
Yeah.
Oh, the one that floats. Yes. Yeah, we can talk about the yacht. Yes, we can talk about the yacht. Yes.
I don't often get to have a segue where I get to talk about a floating project.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, we're not talking about the private plane.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that because the story, what we've been describing is the opportunity to work on projects that you haven't had as a part of your portfolio, where when presented with the opportunity, you've capitalized on the opportunity. And so And for those listening, I really try to make sure that when engaging these conversations with people, that I'm not asking specifics on who the people are that they're working for. I try not to. I don't want to go into those details, because that's not what the story's about. It's not about the who. It's about the what and the how. So can we talk? Whoever wants to start, but I think that this is a really interesting story, because if you're out there and you're running a practice, and you want to figure out ways to be able to engage in projects that you otherwise never would have thought that you could have, you have to put yourself out there. And I think that this is a good story on how you can put yourself out there.
Perfect. Yeah. Not going to disagree.
So how did it happen?
How did it come about?
Yeah.
Well, this was a gift in a way. Or let's call it the brass ring, recognizing the brass ring. And, I was invited to a dinner on a August evening on a Friday night, and it was really warm, and we were eating outside, and there was many other infamous Canadian architects at the same dinner.
Yep.
And I was the only interior designer there. And everybody was talking, blah, 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 blah. It was all really great. And the host, which was my client and everybody else's client at the table, I was sitting beside, and halfway through dinner, everybody's talking, and he's looking at me. He's like, I'm in the process of building a yacht, and I would like you to do the interior of the yacht. And I'm thinking to myself, he goes, would you like to do that? I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, I've never done a yacht, and I'm thinking, he's had too much wine. I've had too much wine, and, he's going to forget about this. Right. And then Monday comes along, and I get this phone call. So the yacht. And I'm like, oh, you're serious? I'm like, well, we've never done a yacht. He goes, well, that's why I want you to look at this. So he's like, oh, there's a super yacht show this week, and I want you to go down with somebody and check this out and come back to me, and I'll call you when you come back. I'm like, okay, fine. So I go to this super yacht show, and again, never been exposed to any of this, and I was like, wow, this is like a whole different world, right? But it was interesting because a lot of it was very like Vegas on crack, like they're beautiful from the outside, but inside it was like, oh my God.
I think you should explain your terminology, Diego. That Vegas on track means that there's way too many ideas.
Yeah.
Nothing's been edited. It's ridiculous. You've got everything in there, but
it's the first draft.
Every design idea possible.
Every design idea, every material you can think of. However, I think I saw like 7 yachts that day. The execution was absolutely amazing. The design was not great, but the execution was amazing. So, I get back, and the client calls, and we're talking, and I said, if this is what you're looking for, we're not the right fit. He goes, no, this is exactly why we want to work with you. I'm like, okay. So we start working on the yacht, and not knowing anything about the marine building and building science and what have you. And the shipyard was excellent to work with. We were very fortunate.
Hold on, but you skipped over it. So you got the project.
Yes, we got the project. Yes, we got the project. We did get the project, and it was amazing. It was an amazing project. We worked with one of the best shipyards in the world. We were very lucky. And, I'll fast forward to it's finished, and it's going to the Monaco show. Right. And I remember the owner of the shipyard calls me and says, are you coming to the Monaco show? Because, we're going to debut at the Monaco show, and you have to come, hauling yourself to come. And, we're not these guys that go to these shows. And we're like, no, it's okay. It's like, no, you're going to meet a lot of people. I'm like, it's not really something that we're really into. And it's like, Diego, if you have $1 billion, you're not coming to the show. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, $1 billion is $1,000 million. I'm like, yes. He goes, well, a super yacht's like 250, 350,
super yacht.
Right? And, so like you need like several billion. I'm like, okay, we're coming. Right.
So we went.
And we land in Monaco, and it's really amazing. And we get to
was this your first time to Monaco?
Yeah, we've never been to Monaco. So, you passed by. I think we landed in Saint Tropez, I think, or we
Yeah.
drove from there to Monaco. Anyways,
Never been to a yacht show for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah, it is impressive, first of all.
Yeah.
But you get there and there's this newspaper that everybody has, and it's called the Super Yacht Times, and our yacht is on the front cover.
Come on.
No, I'm not joking, right? And I'm like, oh my God, it's on the front cover of Super Yacht Times. So we get
Did the shipyard, the gentleman that you spoke to, did he know that it was
no, I don't think they knew.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no, they didn't
We
know.
certainly didn't know.
We did
okay.
not know. We were like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So anyways, we were there for 3 days, and and we went to a lot of other yachts. We, of course, we're going to go and take a look at other yachts and what have you. But we met a lot of people,
Yeah.
and we met the other 4 out of the 5 major shipyards. All their creative directors and ownership came onto the yacht.
Unbelievable.
And the first thing everybody would come to us and they were like, "You guys did this?" I'm like, "Yes." "We understand you've never done a yacht before." I'm like, no, we've never done one. It's like, "This is your first one?" And it's like, "Yes." And they're like nodding their head. They're like, because it's interesting. I think what's very interesting, and it keeps on happening to us, is we are always going into different buckets that we never play in. So we don't have a preconceived idea on how to attack a project or how it should be done. We just kind of intuitively feel like, okay, we should look at it like this, and we go down this.
We do it our way.
We do it our way.
Yeah.
We do it our way.
Yeah.
And what happened, I think, was that everybody in that world all of a sudden started to look at a yacht in a different manner.
Yeah.
Like,
There are other opportunities in being able to see
Right.
what you're going to be able to get out of this.
right. And then it just we put it into competition and won the top awards in 3 competitions. The 3 major competitions out there for super yachts. And it's like this little small studio out of Toronto, and here we are. But that's a common denominator for us. That's happened many times. Like, when we did Park 1 in Seoul, Korea, was the second biggest project we ever did in Korea. There was an American company that did a large part of it, and we did another substantial part of it in partnership. The American partnership came to me during the meeting and said, "Oh, so nice to meet you. We've heard about you and everything." It's like, how many people are on your team? I'm like, and back then I think we were 25 or 28. And they're like looking at me. It's like, we thought you were like 150 people. And I'm like looking at them. I'm like, no. So it's interesting. I think that.
That's why I asked the question before.
Yeah, quality.
About
it's not
team.
quantity.
Well, it's quantity, not quantity. I agree.
Yeah.
But and delivering.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of this is rooted in the fact that you have to deliver something that is exceptional, both from the servicing standpoint, from the communication standpoint, from an execution standpoint, and then from a quality standpoint. But to be able to achieve all of those things across the board puts you in the room with the other people that all have all had equal opportunities at doing something with that same client.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that client comes to you likely is because you've got the smaller studio. They feel connected to who you are and what your brand is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And because you haven't done it before, you're not coming in with a preconceived idea of what it's going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, the advantage we do have is after 32 years, there is a quite a large roster of work that they can see.
Yeah.
And they can see different levels of work. So there's a confidence that we can execute at any level.
Yeah.
So that's helped us.
Which is the key driver of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely. I think when people look into our portfolio, you can see the levels of consideration. And we often talk about that. And even when you compare, homeowners like us against, yacht owners, we all wake up in the morning with the same concerns. Where's my toothbrush? Ergonomically, is everything set correctly? So those folks have the exact same concerns. And I think that it's important for us as designers to not lose perspective on the functionality of our projects and how people engage with our projects just because it's positioned at the higher end of the market per se, or it's a really sought after brand.
Yeah.
I think that we need to keep our wits about us and design accordingly and exercise our level of consideration. And I think that our level of consideration as the studio runs deep, they look at everything. Jonathan, from the role of a bullnose on a table to the smallest little detail to the big expression. So that, I think, also helps carry us through that. I think that, as Diego and I get approached by these sorts of, big opportunities, we also just, we don't blow it out of perspective. We're able to keep our perspective,
Mhm.
which holds our confidence, which reinforces our consideration on how we attack these projects.
I think it's also the way we talk about the project when we're presenting and we're creating concept. It's always in the back of my mind that design is intimidating to anybody that's seeing something. And, to be frank, we are really just selling air in the beginning,
Yeah, I know.
right? It's not,
It's
I don't have anything,
crazy.
I don't have any tangible, I'm not like showing you a set of dishes and saying, do you like this?
No.
Right?
I
It's
know.
right. And so I think it's important to get the idea across in a very tangible, comprehensive, digestible way that doesn't intimidate on the other side.
Yeah.
And they can concentrate on the idea. I think it's important to understand where the idea came from,
Yeah.
but you can get lost in the words very quickly if the idea is kind of half baked. Like, you have to make sure that it's like there for them to see. So I think it's a lot of our success internationally is understanding how to communicate
Right.
the design.
Yeah. I have like a slew of questions in my head that I want to ask.
We have all afternoon, whatever you want.
I'm trying to think of how to bring them together with cohesion. The proposal deck that you're putting together at the beginning is going to be different for each one of these projects.
Absolutely different.
Right? They're totally different.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, as I'm saying this, I'm starting to realize, it's almost like a marketing company, right? At the beginning, in some capacity. Not it. I don't mean to.
No, there's certainly some truth in that.
Because you're coming forward with an idea that a person, like the client themselves, doesn't fully recognize.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been able to fully articulate it. They're looking for you to draw it out of them to come up with the idea.
Right.
And so you're now like, here's this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Right.
Have you ever had a scenario where when you've pitched, someone's like, no, this is not what I want?
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, that does happen. I mean, it's not a home run every time.
And when it has happened, I think, Diego, it's produced a better project at the end of the day.
Yeah, it has.
You need to be engaged and you do need to collaborate with your clients. And a lot of, clients are looking to you for that trust to take you through the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the people, we need to talk about the idea. And sometimes, the idea is strong. Sometimes people also just need time to digest it. And sometimes the immediate reaction isn't there, but then, they'll come back and speak, highly of the idea and engage in it. Or other times you got to change it up a bit and try a few options. And I mean, even us as consumers, even when I think about when I go to look for something and buy something, I'm not necessarily buying the first thing I see. I'm also very discerning and I want to see options naturally.
I'd be lying to say I don't have an ego. And, I'd be like, oh,
but who doesn't?
Paul's right, though. And I can say with 100% certainty, every time we've gone back to something the second time, it's actually better than the first time. Right? Because, we understand the volume, the scale, the program, but, it's their house. Like, it could be, I'm calling it their house, their program. It could be a business. It could be a development. It could be whatever, right? Like, you have to get into their headspace. And, it does make for a better project. It does, but it doesn't happen often, but it happens.
Yeah.
Are there any projects that you have not yet been able to design that are on the wall at the office that said, like, this is what I want to do? Or is there, you're smiling?
Oh yeah, no, there's tons of them. If we sat and scrolled Instagram for 10 minutes, I could probably find you about 100 different directions you could go in.
Is there a location or is there a specific typology that you haven't done that right now you're thinking of, like, that I would love to be able to design for there?
That's a loaded question. I mean, obviously we are very comfortable on the global stage,
Yeah.
right? So we haven't done anything in South America or south of the equator, which I think would be very interesting, first of all, because it brings different opportunities and different limitations. So that's something that I would take a look at. It would be nice to work on a cultural project, that I don't have to worry about, I don't know, X amount of people sitting in a space, or I have to have so much product in the space, or, I could look at something like that would be amazing, amazing to look at. Yeah, I mean, it's like there's so much out there that we still would love to, turn that rock over and play with that stuff. I think, the beauty of where we are is the portfolio is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's opened up a lot of doors. We continually look at a lot of doors. It can go on for as long as it wants to go on for. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's very interesting. I know I'm not really answering the question because I just, in my mind, I'm really thinking about so many different things that we can do.
It's also, the question comes out of nowhere, right? So it's like, unless you've actually really got something that you've had on your mind for the last 5 years and it's referring at you, it might not be the easiest thing to answer.
I think, Jonathan, we talk in very general terms where, again, since day one, we've looked for creative opportunity, and, we could find creative opportunity. It doesn't necessarily have to be in an environment. It could be an object. It could be an outdoor space. It could be, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that phone call that says, you've never done this before, but I think you have the, you have the talent to do this, and you have the know if, you would know how to pull this together. This is something that might challenge you, but it's something that you can deliver upon. So to sit here and say, what is it? We can kind of think about that forever. We talk about it a lot.
Yep.
And we do try to reach out on our, try and find that as much as possible. But at sometimes you've got to wait for that phone call. And then, then we have that discussion about the phone call. And that's where you get that 10 minutes of, excitement and, oh my God, we can't believe who just called. So until that happens, let's see what happens next.
Yeah. Okay. But we are dipping into other disciplines quite a bit.
Like?
Well, when we get into development, we kind of bleed into landscape architecture, and then we, get into product design. Let's design the furniture for the outdoors, or, let's, So we start, we're starting to look at,
absolutely.
We're starting to look at all of that, because it's like, well, why does it have to stop at the wall? It can go here, it can go here, and so it's a little bit more of a holistic approach. And we're blurring the lines a lot, but, going back to, let's call it a branded environment or a point of memory, the more you touch the canvas, or the more real estate of the canvas you play with, the more holistic and stronger it becomes.
Right.
So we are, definitely delving into other sectors.
Okay.
And it's also just part of a general curiosity.
Yeah. I go ahead.
Also with the studio, it's, we certainly, when we break down the studio by category, don't get me wrong, we love working on retail projects. But if I'm, that's all we're working on for 12 months straight, that we want variety. We're people, we're human beings. We have a studio full of human beings that want that same variety. Yeah. And that's why the one studio works really well, because we can satisfy that appetite with a variety of different projects. But you want that variety.
Well, and also, I mean, look, in the studio size, I think that you also have a scenario where there's ownership by each individual within this size of what it is. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to a much larger studio, can become at times a disconnect between the ownership and the work. Mm-hmm. So you have to find the right size for what you want. And it sounds like over these years you definitely have. The thing that I like is how you reference South America. Mm-hmm. Because there are some of you that are listening to this that are in South America. Mm. So I'm just saying.
Oh, great.
Right.
if you've got a project that's really interesting in South America, okay, you can head over to the liner notes, or you just email me and I'll connect you with these fine gentlemen. So I've got to say, I have so enjoyed all of this. If I have missed anything so far, and I know that there's a lot of information to be able to share, is there anything that I have missed that you wanted to be able to communicate that I haven't touched on yet?
Wow, I don't.
I know.
I think you've
Two
I've
general
seen you
questions.
scratching your head here. I could see you being very engaged and really thinking out some questions here. So I think that you've also thrown a few little curveballs, which has been fantastic as well.
Okay.
So it's not the same questions over and over.
It's they're really like there's been a whole bunch of them that I don't traditionally ask.
No, I know, because
Yeah.
I've been listening to you, right? And I'm like, this is not the playbook that I was expecting to get today, which is fine. You know, it's definitely not the playbook. You know, how do you talk about 33 years of
I know,
work
and
like
without a direct question. So
Right,
so I
you know,
will actually ask you a few more. Unless the reason I asked that question is because there are some people I've spoken to where they're like, you know, I didn't talk about I forgot to talk about like my furniture line, or I didn't get into like the fact that I was designing lighting,
right,
or you know, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we just didn't get to.
right.
It's hard to cover it all.
Yeah.
So I want to give that type of opportunity. But the other thing that I also wanted to ask and I didn't get to, you've done so much international work.
Mm-hmm.
What have been some of the best meals that you've had while you've traveled?
Oh my God. Now we're talking.
Okay. Korean barbecue.
Yeah. Well, all the food in Korea is amazing. Japan, unbelievable.
Okay. So what would you say is one of the most memorable meals you had in Japan?
It was, you know, I know it sounds so cliche, but it was sushi, and we were staying at the Amon in Tokyo. And I think because it was just such a long day, you know, we were there for like several days. And I think this particular day we just decided to stay in and eat at the hotel. And it was just amazing. It was magical. Like everything tasted like at the 10th degree, like you could taste everything. I think it's the purity of how they cook and the ingredients is like, it's really amazing. But, you know, I can flip it. Like, you know, I've had equally amazing meals in Italy and France and Germany and the UK and Greece. Like, you know, like it goes on and on and on. Even in the US, like I've had, like I think I've eaten through
a couple of countries.
A couple of countries for sure.
Treated us very well.
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
Jenna's more the foodie. I'm just more I'm happy to just be there. But some very memorable meals. You know, lots of meals in Asia, and somehow talking about Canadian whiskey, which I know nothing about. But you start to understand, you know, the same way that we're experiencing their culture. You know, often when you have more of an intimate conversation during the dinner meal versus, you know, what's happening in the boardroom. So you start to understand, you know, their perspective on Canada and how they look back at us and some of the cultural things. And then sometimes some things come up like whiskey, for example, or Canadian ice wine has been another topic. Again, I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
But things that do come up from that point of view. So I'm more connected, I think, to, instead of the actual food, that they've been amazing meals, but more connected to the conversation and starting to get a little bit more intimate with the clients as opposed to just, you know, what happens in the business setting.
Fair. I'm still going to hold on to food here.
Okay.
What is one of the most obscure meals that you've had? Whether it was in a specific abnormal geographical location where you didn't think you'd be eating in a certain spot, you know, in between meetings and you stop at like a food vendor on the side of the road.
I have one. It happened in Sault.
Okay.
You know, very large client, and you know, it's lunch and there's like 20 of us going for lunch, and you know, they are in a really great part of Seoul, their offices and everything, and we hop on a couple of cars and we go to, let's call it their version of Kensington Market, right? And we're just going down these alleys, and it's like it's getting more and more like suspect. I'm like, where are we? Like, and with all these suits, right?
Yeah.
And they open this metal door. I'm like, what's gonna happen beyond this door? Like, I have no idea. And it's kind of like there's a kitchen off to the side, but it's kind of like a makeshift kind of kitchen. And I mean, it's clean, but it's not like, I don't know. Like I'm kind of looking at it like, I don't know. Like, is this? I don't know. I'm saying a lot. I'm saying a lot.
How's
I
this
don't
meal
know.
gonna sit?
Right, and then there's a long table, and there's like plastic, sheets over the tables and everything. Is somebody gonna get killed here? I have no idea.
Is
Right?
this a Dexter room?
Right? Yeah, it's and anyways, it was a traditional Korean lunch. And it was fantastic, right? But I think, the atmosphere was so different. Yeah.
Shocking.
And it was extremely authentic and traditional. And, you do not want to offend the client. So, I tried some stuff and just grinned and bared it, and
Well,
like, I don't even know half of the
Okay.
stuff that I just would look at it. I'm like, I don't even recognize this, but I'm going to try.
Down the hatch.
Yeah. Right.
What?
But but like you chalk it up as an experience, and it was a lovely meal. Like not all the meal was like, it was actually, there was a lot of part of the meal that was really fantastic. I can't, it was amazing, but it wasn't like, it was one of those things you did not expect. Right. And so sometimes that happens, that happens, or, to flip it, I've also, it could be a major client, it could be anywhere in the world. And you're going to their offices the first time and it's nothing like what you think, meaning it's like 2 steps away from being like a back storage room. Right. And this is a major client.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you're like, this is the way they work. Right. And like, okay. Right. Or you get the flip side where, you feel like you're in the TD Towers and everything is fantastic. So you have to be, I think the first couple of times this happens to you, you're kind of shocked. Now I'm just kind of like immune to it. Like it's an adventure, right?
Yeah.
Every time that door opens, I don't know what I'm walking through. So.
And have there been any of all of the projects that you've done, has there been one of them for individually that you have felt really, really you hit all elements on that one project where you were so satisfied with? And I'm going to assume you feel it with a lot of the projects, but is there one particularly that you say like, this was a special one for me, whether it relates back to maybe some of the lived experiences that you've had that you've been able to tie into it, or you're drawing on elements of inspiration that you never really thought you'd be able to tap into, or you never knew that you would tap into because of what the project was, the location, the client.
You want to go first? You want me to go first?
No, you're the creative director.
All right.
Oh.
I hate the question, first of all, because it's like picking like, who's
I
your
know.
favorite? Who's your favorite?
I'm a jackass for asking.
No, it's okay. I'm going to answer the question because I'm going to answer it in this manner. The project I'm going to talk about is my favorite because it showed me who I was as a creative director and proved to both of us who we could be as contenders on the global stage, and really created a lot of backbone and confidence, and really is the one that really catapulted us. And so to me, it would be...
Before you say this,
Yeah.
before you reveal this,
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I am asked once to twice a day by my daughter, my oldest daughter. She'll show me 2 pictures and she'll ask me to pick my favorite.
Mhm.
And I say both. I hate making that distinction.
Right.
I acknowledge, before you answer this is the worst question. I get it.
Yeah, but I'm prefacing why I like it.
And there was a reason now you understand, like you've answered so far as to why I want to ask this question. So go ahead. No,
Okay,
sorry.
so-
I apologize for interrupting.
No, it's okay. So for me, it would be Holt Renfrew main floor, winning the competition, doing that form of retail design at that level,
Yeah.
internationally, getting a multitude of accolades that lasted for 36 months, if not more, really was the best shot in the arm we could have ever asked for. It was really amazing. And in creating a language that the world has never seen, all of that, and having the confidence of the client, really, to take that risk
Yeah.
was unbelievable. And I think we will forever be grateful and in debt for the generosity of Mr. Weston allowing us to actually do this. Was unbelievable. It's left an endemo, and what's the word I'm looking for? It's left a mark.
Yeah.
It's really quite phenomenal.
I love it. Again, I acknowledge it. It's not the easiest question to ask. And if you're listening to this and you've been a part of other projects, this is not an attempt to be able to diminish any other project that they've worked on together. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that, some things just simply create opportunity and allow you to spread your wings.
Yeah, it was the jumping off point to everything else that has ever happened in the history of the studio. And we've had other projects, bigger, more important, more complex, and I'll never tell you who the favorite is. They're all beautiful.
Yeah.
But this particular project is the it project in my mind.
I'm not going to disagree. So absolutely. I think that again, that's been a big part of the story, and that's kind of been the foundation of it's a series of clients that have happened in that manner.
Mm-hmm.
So I hold it in high regard. Diego's looking at it from the end result and the design and all of that, and I concur, but also from the business side as well. And again, that venturing into the unknown and tie it all the way back to being fearless, being brave. And I think that's something that certainly, Jacob, that project reinforces all of those accolades.
I mean, I've got to say that I was really excited to be able to have the two of you over today, having looked through the portfolio and the conversations that we've shared so far in advance of today. I was really looking forward to it. I was talking about it with some of my friends, and I was like, I'm really looking forward to meeting these guys, because they've had, the two of you have had with your studios like such a powerful mark on the way that people have been able to experience this world from here in Toronto to the other side. Mm-hmm. And what I have so enjoyed about doing this podcast is that it allows the creative people associated with what everyone else gets to experience in the world to be able to tell their own story, and how their story has led to what we all get to experience. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about the idea of going and walking through a metal door and there's plastic all over, and the hairs on your neck start to go up. Yeah. that stories like that exist in the same way that you get to go and create, hotel space and retail space and hospitality space and private homes and estates. Mm-hmm. There is such a depth of range to what you have available to you now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've sensed this from talking to you, Diego, is that you're as excited now as you were 30 years ago about doing the work, which is also a testament to what the practice is capable of today, tomorrow, and next week and next year. Mm-hmm. So I guess this is my really long-winded sign off to say, like, I have so enjoyed having the two of you here and having you share your story. I appreciate your candor, and I appreciate you taking time from your day and away from your clients and the billables and all the other things that are associated with your lives to be able to come and have a candid conversation about what's happened up till now in your life and what's going to happen as you go forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
We really
enjoyed
it.
Also, we both enjoyed it. I speak for Diego, but sometimes these nostalgic conversations, you don't often think in this manner. So also, pulling us back to some of these memories and reflecting upon them has also been kind of an interesting afternoon to look back. So thank you very much.
Yeah. We often don't look back. Yeah. Which is really interesting. You actually have brought up a lot.
Keep looking forward.
Yeah.
I have this tendency where I will, in my day, there's certain people I speak to where I take note of what's happening in my day. Mm-hmm. it's almost like a daily journal with like it's like phone call that I have with some people, and I just like, here's what's happening, here's what's happened in my day, and then I do that for the week, just so you have like these bookmarks of what's happened in your life as you kind of go through it. And yeah, that's what this becomes. This becomes the opportunity, as we said before we recorded it.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one telling your story here. It's you telling your story. So thank you for doing it.
That's for that.
Thank you.